Island Biogeography. Fascination of islands. Island biogeography, they represent small isolated microcosms with discrete boundaries. Islands vary greatly in size, age, isolation, shoreline structure, topography, and geology. Many isolated islands have high percentage of endemic species. Islands provide inspiration for evolutionary theories. Both Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace had the opportunity to study island. The effects of evolution are easier to observe on islands because fewer the species are evolved, so patterns of evolution are clear. Islands formed by two ways: by disappearance of connecting land bridges from mainland, by land rising from the sea. A feature of island chains is that they are graded in age. A new island is always being added to one end of chain. Colonization of isolated islands. Several ways in which organisms reach an isolated island. Active method and by passive method. Active method by flying or swimming, and passive method by floating with the ocean currents either directly in sea or attached to driftwood. Colonizer reaching the freshly formed island may have problems establishing on hard, unweathered, base-rich, hot lava. Colonization will be mostly result of change. Some species arrive before there is a suitable habitat for them and only to recolonize later when the situation is more favorable. The equilibrium theory. It was proposed by MacArthur and Wilson in 1963. Consider an island like Surtsey, risen from the sea, with no species yet colonized. At first, almost every organism arrive island is a new species to island, so rate of immigration for island is high. As the number of species of the island increases, many of the organisms arriving on the island will be the species already present. So rate of the immigration will eventually fall almost to zero as number of species rises, rate of immigration of new species to island. If island is close to mainland, it will be easy for species to reach it. Species will arrive quickly, so immigration rate will be very high. Island is long way from the shore like Hawaiian Island, then the fewer species will reach it and the rate of immigration will be much low, even in the beginning of colonization. If there are only few species on island, then each will probably have a large population size and little competition from other species, so rate of extinction will be low. As the number of species increases, population size of the some of the species will become lower and probability of the some species becomes extinct will be a higher rate. If we put immigration and extinction curve together for a single island, this will be the image. If number of species on island is small, immigration rate will exceed the extinction rate and the number of species on island will rise. As it rises, immigration will fall, but extinction rate will increases. Eventually, it reaches a point where immigration rate is equal to the extinction rate. At this point, number of species of the island reach equilibrium point. Addition of new species balances the loss of species by extinction. Evolution of islands. Many isolated islands contain several endemic species. The endemics are often from particular groups land birds and plant. For example, the presence of so many endemic could explained in two different ways. They could arrive on the island. They could be mainland species which survived on the island while the mainland population went extinct. The frequency of immigration of individual members of species onto an island will affect the genetic variation of island population. Land birds and inland plants may introduce once a small number of individuals. The population in the isolated from parent population and the new locality where environment condition is differ, such population likely to undergo natural selection and adapted to new environment evolves into a new species. The group of closely related species on different islands. The process of speciation on a group of islands from adaptive radiation. Form adaptive radiation. Mountain islands. Many isolated habitat totally separated from the other kind of its considered as an island. For instance, there is a mountain, many mountains, surrounded by a low-lying land. Mountain species have arrived on a mountain by some form of long-distance dispersal, just like mainland species arriving on an island. Some of the most interesting isolated mountains are tropical latitudes where the high altitude ecosystem is surrounded by tropical rainforest or savanna. The mountain of East Africa is rather like a cluster of small islands, solitary volcanic mountain on or near the equator surrounded by savanna. Thank you.